And we are live with another edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. I am one of your co-hosts, Nicholas Bavona, joined alongside as always by my co-host, Andrew Johnson. And Johnson, for the first time since July, we're going to be talking about the MLB as the MLB season just finally wrapped up this past Sunday. We now know the upcoming wild card matchups as well as the teams that earned themselves a bye into their respective divisional series. And it was certainly a bumpy ride for certain teams to get into the postseason. Some teams missed the postseason after certain collapses, which I'm sure we'll get into in just a little bit. Teams like a certain team in the AL Central had to make a crazy run in the final 2 months of the season just to get into the playoffs and, in fact, win their division. And, Johnson, we now know the teams that are going to be playing in this year's postseason, looking to win a World Series championship at the end of the day. And it should be a really interesting next couple of days with the wild card series kicking off tomorrow night.
Yeah, going to be really interesting because there are so many teams that led to absolute heartbreak this season, and we're going to discuss them all during the show. There's many favorites, many hundreds of millions of dollars spent on payrolls, some sick irony in the division matchups here to finish the week, which led to a lot of heartbreak in both the AL and the NL. So let's just get straight into it.
Yeah, I think we're beating around the bush. Let's just start off with the NL East. I think we have to talk about what happened for that certain team that we've been kind of mentioning somewhat these past couple of minutes. And let's start off with this division. And let's face facts, Johnson. Going into the season, you and I both agreed that at least two teams would make the playoffs going into the season. For us, I had the Braves as the NL East winner. You had the New York Mets. And as well as the wild cards, I had the Phillies and the Mets. I had three teams in this division making the postseason, as well as you. You also had the Braves and the Phillies as your wild card teams. Well, at the end of the day, only one team from this division made the postseason. That was the Philadelphia Phillies. They got the job done, and they won the NL East, and they clinched it a couple of weeks ago. And throughout the first 2 months of the season, the talk of the MLB world was the New York Mets. They were the best team in baseball, had the best record. Everything was looking really good for the Mets. Their pitching, despite not having a marquee name, was doing great numbers. Their offense wasn't doing what they had hoped for to start the season, but they still were at the best record in baseball. But then the All-Star break hit for the Mets, and it seemed like a lot of things changed for this team. Then it turned kind of into 180 where their pitching started to become bad. They weren't hitting the ball a lot better, but the pitching really became a problem. The rotation wasn't doing great. They made some big trade deadline acquisitions, getting guys like Ryan Helsley and Gregory Soto for that bullpen. And things just kind of unraveled for the Mets at the last 3 months of the season. I think they lost, I want to say, I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up.
38 and 55 after starting 45 and 25, I believe.
I didn't know if it was above the 55 threshold or not. I know they won 38 games. It just goes to show you how bad the second half of the season was for the Mets, and they missed the playoffs completely. They had a tiebreaker scenario on Sunday where they had to beat the Miami Marlins and had to have the Reds lose to the Brewers. They got one half of that tiebreaker to go their way, and that being the Brewers beat the Reds. They could not get the job done against the Marlins, and it was almost eerily similar to what happened in 2007, where the Mets season ended to the Miami Marlins that same year as well. The Phillies went on an insane run in that season, but it felt different this time around because obviously the expanded playoffs, you get 3 wild cards now for each respective league, and the Mets, although they didn't win the division, they still had a really good opportunity to make the playoffs, especially with the amount of money they spent in the offseason. And things just didn't go their way throughout the last couple of weeks of the season. They lost to teams like the Nationals, the Marlins, teams under 500. And it wasn't like the Reds were playing like insane baseball either. They also were playing, about 500 baseball, and 500 baseball was just enough to get that last wild card spot in the NL. So a really bad break. The Mets missed the postseason, which was probably the biggest shocker of the entire end of the season recap for the MLB.
I would say that's the second biggest shocker here. I guess we'll talk about everything, but the biggest shocker to me
I know what you're getting into, yeah.
Yeah, the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah, the Tigers is another one. I think they're just
Cleveland Guardians, plus 17,000 to win the division.
I think it was last month. 1st. Oh, September 1st, yeah.
28 days, 4 weeks ago to the date. As of today's date, this is 9/29, so it's 5:39 p.m. 4 weeks ago to the date, if you had placed $10 on the Guardians to win the division, you would have won 1,700.
This was just crazy.
Yeah, so like it was a lotto ticket, but like not really.
I think the good thing for the Tigers is that they made the playoffs. If they had missed the playoffs entirely after having those numbers that you just mentioned, you're talking about this being the worst collapse of the entire season. I still don't, I'm not giving them a pat on the back for making the playoffs. They deserve a lot of criticism as well for what happened in the second half of the season because just like the Mets, Johnson, they had a really good mark in the play going into the second half, first half of the season. They were one of the best teams in all of baseball, and the second half was just a mixture of their offense was having really bad offensive numbers. Tarek Skubal realistically was doing as much as he could potentially. He had some bad starts in the second half of the season as well, but it really came down to the Guardians just were one of the hottest teams in all baseball. There was at one point they won like 18 of 19 games in a row, and they sneak away with this division win. They win the AL Central, and they move on to the postseason for a matchup with this same Detroit Tigers team. And, for us, we both had the Tigers as our division winners. Still made the playoffs, at least that's something. I had the Guardians still in the playoffs, which I was shocked to even think that I had them as a wild card team. But lo and behold, I did have them at the beginning of the year. But yeah, if not for them making the playoffs, absolutely their collapse would have been catastrophic. They're just grateful to even be here. But it came down to the fact, Johnson. I looked this up also. They had the same record as the Astros, who missed the playoffs for the first time since 2016. The Astros lost a game 1-0 earlier in the season on a walk-off walk. That was the difference of that last wildcard spot in the American League.
Yeah, I mean, absolute dramatic fashion. I can't believe this is the world we live in. And I think overall, just as a whole, we did a pretty good job picking the MLB postseason.
Yeah,
I think I got 5 teams wrong, but
I counted the
in the
yellow.
beginning,
For
yeah,
us, our sheet we have green as you got the division winners right. Yellow, I gave you a pass because if you got the team in the postseason, they're a postseason team, and red just outright they didn't make the postseason entirely.
yeah. So I'll go into my picks a little bit, which were egregious. We both had the Rangers making and the Braves making the postseason, which historic
I'm done
collapse,
with the
right?
Rangers. I'm done with them.
Yeah, I'm done picking the Rangers now at this point, so whatever. My big mistake was picking the Orioles. That was my big mistake right there,
Yeah,
and I think we can both get. And you were the Diamondbacks. You picked the Diamondbacks. That was your big mistake.
I think the Rangers
I
are my
think
big
we,
mistake. The Diamondbacks at least had a shot at the end of
yeah,
the
I
season.
guess.
The Rangers, I've had enough trying to give this team credit,
And we both did a good job.
and the Braves too. The Braves are also really bad.
Yeah, I said for Braves
Yeah,
and Braves. That was a huge miss for us, right? Like mutually speaking, we had a couple teams where we both kind of agreed, and they didn't happen. Baltimore was my biggest mistake, obviously, and like you said, for you it was personally. I guess the Rangers. I mean, I had the Rangers too, but
I guess I have the two. Yeah, it has to be Diamondbacks. That's a solo pick,
but
but
I think we both get a pass on the Astros and the Mets because they were right in it to the very last minute. So
they
those
had
weren't even bad
chances.
picks.
Yeah, they had chances. The
So when you really
Astros,
look,
the Astros, the same thing. They should be talked about also for collapsing because they had the division lead going into the final month of the season, and the Mariners, to their credit, they caught so much fire just like Cleveland, and the Astros they missed the playoffs completely. They did and they had chances in the final week of the season to get that last wild card spot. But they were losing to teams like I said it's Oakland, but they're still Oakland in my opinion. They lost to teams like the Athletics and the Angels in their own respective division. So if you're not going to beat those teams, that's pretty much what happened to the Mets because the Mets lost to teams like the Nationals and the Marlins. The Astros lost to teams like the Angels and the Athletics, and that's the reason those two teams aren't in the playoffs.
yeah, and it's very hard to pick the postseason in March, right? This isn't like the NBA or the NFL where you have an idea where like 90% of those teams are going to make it. Like baseball is just an absolute crapshoot. And I think if you can get more than 50% of your teams right in the beginning of the month, especially when you're picking long shots, like not real long shots, but I had the Reds in the postseason. I had the Cubs in the postseason. Some, we both had the Tigers, which really, that was kind of like a pick'em division right there.
But
So
we thought the Tigers were the best team in the division by default.
yeah, we thought they were a bit. Yeah, I thought we both thought they were the best division in the division by default. But Whatever, we did a good job overall. But yeah, let's go back into talk about the Tigers, their collapse, yada yada yada. I mean, it's historic, but you know what's going to happen here? No one will ever remember this collapse if they make an ALDS or
If
make
they
the ALCS.
if they beat the Guardians in the wild card, they're not going to be talking about it as much.
So yeah, here's the
Absolutely.
thing: they won't talk. They won't talk about it because it proved that okay, they were a better team anyway. So they were in the spot at the end of the season where we all expect them to be, right? So as long as they get to the the ALDS, they lived up to the expectations. Now, if they go one step further and win the round two matchup,
And get to the
then it's a whole different
ALCS.
ball game.
Right.
So if they get to the ALCS, no one definitely remembers this collapse they have, and they remember, oh man, that was such a good season for Detroit baseball. So right now they're
Yeah.
playing for expectations. The Tigers, they're playing for expectations.
Yeah, keep in mind, remember, they lost to the Guardians last year in the ALDS, so they want revenge from last year's postseason defeat against Cleveland, and that was the Tigers team that had beaten the Astros on the wild card to get to that spot. They had that series lead at one point, and they just couldn't get the job done at the end of the day. The Guardians got to Tarek Skubal in Game 5 of that ALDS, and that was the difference maker of that series. So we'll see what happens in Game 1. I think it's going to be Skubal against Gavin Williams in that game, but we'll see. Maybe Detroit gets their revenge, and as you mentioned, maybe we don't talk about this as much. Now, I also mentioned, when we talked about the NL East being the team would have three teams in the playoffs from one division, that happened in the American League East. We had three teams in the postseason going into this week. We have the Toronto Blue Jays, probably the biggest shocker, in my opinion, of the entire playoffs. Not only do they win the division, they have home field advantage for this upcoming postseason. They barely get it due to having the tiebreaker over the Yankees. Those two teams finishing with the same record, but the Toronto Blue Jays do have the tiebreaker, so they have home field advantage. The Yankees have the first wild card. They will be hosting. How fitting is this, Johnson? They'll be hosting the Boston Red Sox in this upcoming wild card week. 3-game matchup. Whew. A lot of storylines going into that series, but the Yankees, they had some problems against Boston too this season. So if they're going to be able to get back to the World Series this year, they're going to have to defeat not only a team, they're going to have to defeat two teams that have had their number so far this season.
There's gonna be a lot of animosity in the Bronx this week. It's gonna be kind of crazy to see that one of MLB's most historic rivalries is coming back to the forefront. We've kind of felt like it's been Yankees versus the world the last couple of years, whether it was in the Astros or the Dodgers for the last probably 10 years. However, it's going back to their roots and it's being Yankees Red Sox now. So maybe this will reignite a rivalry that it's been a little bit dormant, not dormant on Twitter or social media, but just kind of dormant in the news for the last decade or so, because there really hasn't been too much. Your paths really haven't crossed that much the last decade.
Right.
It's sparingly compared to historically.
Yeah, for me, obviously these series mean a lot more. Like the playoffs obviously mean something, but when you're facing a division rival, a hated rival, it puts a lot of more emphasis into this stuff. We saw last year with the Mets and Phillies how big and how etymonic how those two teams and those fan bases reacted towards each other as that series progressed. That was a 5-game series. You get 3 games of this series potentially. You're at least guaranteed 2, and it's going to be in the Bronx. The Red Sox fans are going to travel there for that series as well. So there's going to be a lot of hatred for these two teams, and a lot's on the line because you're trying to move on to the ALDS. You're trying to move on to take on Toronto and get one step closer to moving to getting a chance at the AL pennant as well. So there's a lot on the line for these two teams coming this week, and Toronto is going to be waiting. They're going to have a very, very tough matchup come their ALDS, no matter who wins that series between the Yankees and the Red Sox. And then,
So,
yeah, go
Nick,
ahead.
before we move on, there have been 6 times in the last 25 years where the Red Sox and the Yankees have played each other in the postseason. Can you name those years?
Well, I refuse to acknowledge one, for obvious reasons.
Yep,
2003.
okay. Yep.
Um, I know they
This
played
is one.
they played
Yeah,
recently. I
they
know they
did.
did.
They did. They played in the wild card.
Yeah, the Red Sox won that series. Was that 2022?
21,
21.
2021.
I know Schwarber was on the Red Sox one year. I think that was the year. I don't remember.
And then there's a,
I think that was a Schwarber year, but
and then before that, it's the 2018 ALDS, the 100 win Red
yes, that
Sox
was the
was the
Reds.
108. Yep, yep, yep. And then there's the 1999 ALCS,
Yes.
98 win Yankee versus a versus a 94 win Red Sox team.
Yep.
So it's not too much in the last 20 years. I mean, this is the third series in the last 20 years. So it's been, I don't say it's dormant, but you haven't had a lot recently.
Well, I think here's the thing. Also, you mentioned those last couple of series. You know, obviously that certain year, 2018 and 2021. The common, unfortunately, the common thing for those series was the Red Sox won the series. So the Yankees, they gotta get something going. If they want to get some revenge, they gotta get it going. Game one's gonna be. I think game one tomorrow is gonna be a great indicator of what's gonna happen for the remaining potential two games because you're gonna have Max Fried going against Garrett Crochet. Those are two Cy Young candidates for the end of the season. I expect a pitcher's duel in that game no matter what happens, but you know, anytime you're facing Garrett Crochet and you're a Yankee fan or just any fan of a baseball team, you know it's going to take a lot for you to try to win that game. Crochet is one of the best
Also,
pitchers in
Nick,
all of
just
baseball.
to kind of throw that out there, again, I am not a Yankee fan, but the Yankees can lose. This is combined regular and postseason record. They could lose the next 200 regular and postseason games versus the Red Sox, and they still have an all-time winning record versus them. So
Yeah,
kind of funny.
yeah. It's. I mean, listen. I just. You know me. It's gonna be a long week. It's only 3 days potentially of this matchup, but it's gonna take a lot for me. It's gonna
Yep.
take a lot out
Just
of me in this series.
don't write any checks that your mouth can't cash that
You know me. I'm not.
that the team can't back up. So I
I'm
know it's
not.
not you, but just saying for
Yeah.
everyone else out there.
I try to make sure I don't mush my teams at the end of the day. When I picked the Yankees at the beginning of the season to win the division, I was also very adamant in saying I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it just because I didn't trust Baltimore at the time because of their pitching. Letting Corbin Burns walk a free agency. And Boston, I thought was a playoff team, but I didn't think they were just there yet to win a division title. They had a chance to do that, but not there yet. But the Red Sox still make the playoffs regardless, so it's going to be a very interesting series between these two teams. We'll talk about that matchup later on in the mushing hour. We'll go into the final thing for the AL, that's being the Seattle Mariners. I talked about them a little bit earlier on. They caught fire, Johnson. I mean, they made some big trade deadline acquisitions, getting guys like Eugenio Suarez and Josh Naylor from the Diamondbacks. They revitalized that offensive front for the Seattle Mariners team. And to top it off, you have a really good, strong rotation. Guys like Logan Gilbert, you have Luis Castillo, Brian Wu. You have a top trio in that rotation. Bryce Miller is also a nice young becoming pitcher for that rotation as well. And they'll be the number two seed in the AL coming this postseason. So for a team like Detroit or Cleveland, not going to be easy no matter who wins that series to go into Seattle. We know how big Seattle is in terms of sports. They're one of the best fan bases in all of sports, whether it's football or baseball or just any type of sport. So they're going to bring the noise for that series regardless. I'm looking forward to see if this is finally going to be the time for Seattle to finally, etch something because they haven't won a division title since 2001. Can they finally get over the hump and get to the ALCS potentially, and then maybe get one step further and maybe make a World Series appearance?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna buy into Seattle yet. It's a great story. They might have the MVP. As of odds, right now he's probably not the MVP, but that can change
It's
on a
tough.
dime.
Yeah,
So
Riley and Judge, we'll have to say.
I mean, it's depending on the
Historic year
day.
regardless if he doesn't win it.
Yeah, absolutely historic year. If he had broken the home run record, it would have been his. But I think he finished with, what, 60 on the
Finished with
dot.
exactly 60. Yep.
Yeah, so if he had a couple more, he would definitely won it. But he also struck out a bunch in his last couple days. He didn't wasn't really too hot in July, and I think August he wasn't hot in too. I think he was batting under 200 those months. But yeah, I mean Judge had his slumps too. He had his slumps, and it's going to be very interesting because now if Judge gets the MVP, he's going to be based off the batting average, and it's going to be the exact argument that got Jose Altuve his MVP in his cheating. His cheating year in
You don't have to be sorry. You're
2017.
you're you're exactly right
Yeah, I was
on
gonna
that.
change it historic, but it was a cheating year.
Yeah, it
So,
was cheating.
but yeah. Anyway, yeah, Cal Raleigh may be the MVP. Depends on the day. Depends on what media markets pushing
Even if he doesn't win
propaganda.
it, they should still
It's
be
still a great year.
proud. Right. They should still be proud for what they did because, as I mentioned, they haven't won a division title in 24 years. It's been that long. And that year in 2001, was probably one of the best years they've had in their franchise's history outside of them winning a championship, obviously. But it really comes down to, can this offense produce in the playoffs? Because we've seen Seattle at times in the season where they go on those, those hitless droughts and not being able to score. That's why they got guys like Eugenio Suarez and Josh Naylor to make sure that their offense is not going to go into those slumps and then they can get some big time power. It's worked so far at the end of the season. Is it going to transition into the playoffs? Is where I'm just trying to figure out if that's going to be the case for this team. So we'll see. But they have the rotation that can certainly get them and further on into the postseason. Let's wrap up, Johnson, as well. The final two divisions that we haven't talked about yet, that's in the National League. We'll start off for the NL Central. Great job by the Milwaukee Brewers. Best record in the entire MLB, 97 wins, 65 losses. They will have home field advantage throughout the entirety of the playoffs, and they're looking really good right now. I mean, they did some great numbers all overall in the season. Freddie Peralta is a Cy Young candidate. Not sure if he's going to win it, but he's a big reason why the Brewers are at the spot in the season, and they have a great young core that got them to this winning record of 97 and 65. But not to be outdone, this is another division that had three teams into the postseason. We talked about the Cincinnati Reds earlier and what they did. Terry Francona, first year on the job, and this is a big reason why I liked the Reds earlier on in the season. I don't remember if I took them as a wild card team. I didn't. I know you took them as a division winner, but the reason why I didn't disdain your pick for it was because of Terry Francona, because he gets the most out of those players. And you saw it. Ellie De La Cruz, great year. Hunter Green was a really solid pitcher for this rotation. They made some nice big moves at the deadline as well to keep themselves in the race, even though they weren't, you know, in the sake of being a team like Seattle or Cleveland that was on a red hot streak. They were just staying around the 500 mark, which was just good enough to get themselves into the playoffs. And then to write off that division, the Chicago Cubs, they had a great year. Unfortunately, they had a little bit of a skid towards the All-Star break, which is why the Brewers were able to come out on top as the division winners. But the Cubs deserve some praise for what they did this season too. Craig Counsell, first year on the job, and what he did with this team overall, I should say second year on the job. What he did with this team was really good because you have guys that are producing. PCA was an MVP candidate for the first half of the season. Obviously, the second half was a downright not great for him. He'll even tell you that. But they have such a great lineup. Their rotation doesn't look great on paper, but they're getting the most out of this rotation for the entirety of the season. The bullpen's definitely going to be a big concern for them come postseason time, and they've got a tough matchup in the wild card too. But the Cubs definitely deserve some praise as well for what they did this season.
Yeah, I was saying all year that the Cubs were one of the best teams in baseball, and unfortunately, if it wasn't for those pesky Brewers, they might have the number one seed right now. They were not in their division. They might have won 94, 95 games. That's not really too far of a
Definitely not a
uh
stretch, no.
yeah, of a stretch, right?
Yeah.
Nope. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the postseason baseball right now, and I think we can go straight into the mushing hour, Nick.
Yeah, we can go quick into it. The Dodgers and Padres, we don't really need to talk about them too much. We know those two teams are good on paper, and we're expected to be in the playoffs. I think it's only shocking that the Dodgers didn't get the refs. We were kind of surprised maybe they didn't
I
get the
said at
best
the beginning
record.
of the year that I wasn't really too sold on the Dodgers. I said, like, listen, like, I had him as my West winner, just kind of as default
It's
because,
a default pick, yeah.
but I said, listen, like, they're not going to win 100 games. I was kind of like really skeptical about them. And I know they're the third seed in the West, but they may be the fourth or fifth best team overall this postseason.
Right.
So for a team that was, this Titan that had so many, unhittable pitchers, and they had 1 through 9, point 0.8 OPS or higher. Not so much this season. So, in the wise words of Lee Corso, not so
Not
fast,
so
my
fast,
friend.
my friend. Yep. Of course. Yeah, so we'll see what happens. Dodgers get both teams, no matter what, will be in the wild card regardless. The Dodgers will have their respective matchup. The Padres will have their respective matchup. And as you mentioned, Johnson, let's go into the mushing hour. We'll talk about those two respective matchups. So it's our first mushing hour of this year's MLB postseason. And let's kick things off in the National League. You have the team that made it, the final team that made it in the NL wild card, that being the Cincinnati Reds. They will have to take on the defending World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers. Johnson, I'll ask you for who do you think will win this series, and do you think do you think the team will sweep, or do you think we'll take 3 games?
We'll take 3 games, and it'll be the Dodgers.
You got the Dodgers in 3 games.
Dodgers in 3 games. Yeah, I think the Reds will steal one. I think the Dodgers will have some bullpen problems. I mean, I think they're gonna be kind of cursed if not putting Kershaw in there. I think that's bad juju. Not putting him on the
Well, they
roster
don't
for
have.
the finals.
I I'm not a big
I'm
Dodger
stunned by
fan,
that.
but not putting him on there is. I thought it was
That's criminal.
tasteless. Yeah, definitely
Yeah,
criminal. I kind of want them to lose just because of that reason, but I know Kershaw had an up and down year. You got to have good positive vibes for the playoffs, regardless. He better be on the roster if they make it to the NLDS. That's all I'm gonna say. I have Dodgers 2-0 though. I think the Reds, great story. I love what they did this season. I just think the Dodgers have too much, and they have to, in my opinion, take advantage of this and make sure that they get the job done. The Reds, the only chance they have, in my opinion, of getting this to 3 games, they're going to need a really good outing from Hunter Green in Game One. I think Hunter Green has to
yeah,
go seven
that's the
innings,
game.
in my opinion, to have a chance for them to win Game One. But we'll see.
That'll
It's
be
gonna
the
be.
game for them.
I think it's Hunter Green and Blake Snell in the first matchup. I think that is the official pitching matchup for that game. So that should be a really good one in Los Angeles. Let's go into our next NL matchup. Padres and the Cubs. Outside of my own respective series with the Yankees and the Red Sox, I am looking forward to this series so much. There's
This is
so
gonna be a
many
great
fun
series.
players in this series. Tatis, Machado, the Padres. Hopefully PCA gets back to his normal self from the first half of the season. For the Cubs, you have Nico Horner, Dansby Swanson, Michael Bush had a great year too,
It's a
just to name a
very
couple
likable. These
players.
are both very likable. I mean, there's more likable players on the Cubs than the Padres. Let's
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
be real with that. But
So going into the series, who do you have winning it?
I have Cubs 2-1. I think the Padres are the better baseball team here. Matching up, I think the Padres are better at the more important positions. They have better power hitters. They have the star power, quote unquote. But something just tells me to pick the Cubs here because I think ever since Machado mouthed off to that fan, I don't think he's ever going to win a World Series or even advance far in the postseason. So,
Forgot
with
about
that
that.
being
Yeah.
said, I'm going Cubs 2-1 here. And Machado's a fantastic player, future Hall of Famer, but I feel like he's got that juju since he went to the Padres. So, give me Cubs 2-1.
And they have the unfortunate task of having to take on that Brewers team, the winner of this series too. And
Yeah,
how about
and
fitting for the
I
other
think if I
series?
think if I think if the Cubs win this, I think they'll beat the Brewers too. So
Hmm.
maybe it's a spoiler.
That might be a spoiler, yeah. I think another thing with the other series, the Dodgers winning and going against the Phillies, that's going to be some interesting baseball if those two teams play in the NLDS. I've actually got the Padres winning this series. I would love to see the Cubs move on. I love what they've done all season, but it kind of just goes into what you were just saying before. I think the Padres, just on paper, are a little bit of a better team. It's going to come down to rotation, and I just think the Padres rotation is a slight bit better than this Cubs rotation. You have guys like Pavetta, Cease, Michael King, just to name a few of those guys. I just like what the Padres bring to the table, and their bullpen has been pretty much lights out all season. You got Mason Miller at the trade deadline to help you in key spots like this. That's why I'm just leaning a little bit more towards San Diego in this opportunity. So I've got the Padres in 3 games as well. So a little bit of a switch up for us this time, but I have San Diego winning this series in 3. Let's move on into the American League. We have the Tigers and the Guardians, the AL Central matchup. In the wild card, the 6 seed Tigers taking on the AL Central Division champion Guardians, a rematch from last year's ALDS. Who do you have in that matchup?
Tigers with a sweep here. I'm a
Ooh.
big believer that they're going to bounce back strong. I don't think they could spiral forever, and eventually you're going to return to your median, right? You're going to return to the middle. So I think the Guardians are hot, 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 but in October, all teams are equal. So with that, they're going to mellow out just a little bit. And I think the Tigers will dig in, and I think the Guardians will falter. So give me the Tigers and a sweep here.
Yeah, I don't hate that because the Guardians, yes, they caught fire, but there's going to be a point where it's going to potentially cool off at some point, and I don't disagree. I have the Tigers too in the series. I do think it goes to 3. I think the Tigers take game 1 tomorrow night or tomorrow afternoon. I think that game is being played, and then Cleveland takes game 2. Tigers win the all important game 3. It depends on what the Tigers can do rotation wise. I'm assuming Scooball is going to go game 1. They probably go Jack Flaherty in game 2, and then if I'm choosing between a guy like Casey Mize, if it is Casey Mize, or a Slade Saucony. I would rather go with Casey Mize in that matchup, the former number one overall draft pick. So I'll go with Detroit as well in that series, but I have them winning it in 3 games in that AL wildcard matchup. And then the other way, AL wildcard matchup, Johnson, oh man, Yankees, Red Sox, it can't get any much better. The script writers, they were certainly cooking with this one. Who do you have in that series?
I got one question for you, Nick.
Mm-hmm.
You like Jazz?
I love Jazz.
I do too, so I'm picking the Yankees to win 2-1.
Okay. Now, it doesn't seem like he's going to play game one, and I think the only reason is because of the
It's
lefty-lefty
strategic.
matchup.
Yeah,
Yeah, I completely
I
understand it.
think
I don't
I could
agree with
see
it
him.
necessarily, but I understand why they're doing it.
Aaron Boone in the 6th inning is going to probably,
Yeah.
or 7th inning, he's going to pull whoever starters. I think it's Ahmed Rosario right now. I think he's
It,
starting for him at second.
yeah, they have no. Actually, they have Caballero's going to play second, I believe, and Alme Rosario's going to play third. I think that's what
So
they're
maybe
doing.
they'll move him around then. It
It's
depends on
gonna be
who's
either
better.
or. No matter what, they're both
Because
playing.
Jose is such a great utility player.
Right.
Like, he's one of the best utility players in baseball. And he's been hot since he got to the Yankees. He's hitting now. So
Yeah.
not only is he the stolen bases leader, and now he's hitting. So like, he can get on base, he can draw walks, he can steal bases. So I think you keep him in there. And no disrespect to Rosario, but I think if you had a chance between Jose and him, I think you would go with Jose.
Yeah.
So
No.
I think
No
eventually
question.
when they get that righty in there, where Jazz is probably going to hit, has like a .9 OPS versus righty, so it's like almost automatic. Where if it's hitting a home run or getting on base in general, I think he'll have 2 opportunities in this game to get on base. So even though it's a strategic start to kind of get rid of that empty hole, quote unquote, for the first half of the game, as soon as Garrett Crochet is out, Jazz will be in.
I think it's so important for the Yankees to win game one, Johnson, because Brian Bella, I believe, is the starter for the Red Sox in game two, and the Yankees have not had good numbers against him in terms of he'll have some bad starts, but the Red Sox seem to find ways to win the games that he starts in. So it's going to be really important for them to get the job done in game one, but it's not easy because it's Garrett Crochet. He's a top 5 pitcher in all of baseball. It's going to be a low scoring game in game one, regardless. Fried's been a Cy Young pitcher for them this season. Crochet's been a Cy Young pitcher for the Red Sox. I believe it's going to be Bello versus Rodon in game number 2. And I think it's Cam Schlittler. I don't know who is pitching for the Red Sox in game 3, but I know Schlittler is the projected starter in that third matchup if necessary. I'm going to pick my Yankees. I can't really. I would be thrown away from this fan base if I took the Red Sox in a series against New York. I'm going to take the Yankees as well in 3 games to get the job done, but it's going to take a couple years off my life. I'm going to tell you right now.
One major aspect of this. Did you see who didn't make the postseason roster for the Red Sox?
Lucas Giolito,
elbow problems.
Yeah, he's not.
Giolito, he's not going to be there. So that's going to be huge.
He would have started game 3 for sure. He would have started game 3.
Mm-hmm.
Not even a question.
Yeah, one of the best pitchers in baseball.
I don't know who they go to in game 3 of that series. I'm looking at their roster right now. They might have to go to one of their young pitchers that they just called up a couple weeks ago, which it's not easy because it's either Connolly early or Kyle Harrison probably would be. It might as well be a bullpen game if you think about it. Those, no matter what, those winning in games, those are usually bullpen games. Even if your starter gets into certain trouble, they take you out early in that one. I saw it firsthand in 2017 when the wild card series was just a 1-game playoff. So that I could see that very well being a bullpen game for both sides potentially. I'm just hoping the Yankees bullpen does not do what they did most of the season. They need to get their shit together. No, sorry for the language, but they need to get it done. But with all that being said, Johnson, at the end of the day, let's make our pick for the World Series. We can revitalize it later if one of these teams gets eliminated at the end of the day. But who do you have in your World Series?
Blue Jays, Cubs.
Ooh, I like that matchup.
It's a nice matchup. It's a very great underdog story. Sorry, Nick, I don't have the Yankees going there, but
that's understandable.
I really think that the Yankees may make the ALCS and lose to Toronto in 7 games. So, well, it's not even possible at this point. But I don't think they're getting by Toronto.
Toronto does worry me a bit. They had such a weird season, but the good thing for them is they're getting. I think the best thing about them winning the division is they get the time off to get Bo Bichette back, because if they had to play the wild card, they were not going to have Bo Bichette in that series. So that's huge for them to get this division done. For me, I hate that I'm going to pick the Dodgers in there, but I'm going to put the Dodgers in there, try to mush them. Maybe I get it wrong. The American League is the one where I'm having trouble with. And you know what? I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to not put the Yankees in there just to give them a chance. I'm going to put the Seattle Mariners in there. I love what their team is done these last couple of weeks. I think the only thing that concerns me is that because they got a first round bye, that maybe because they were red hot, is it going to cool off because they had a couple of days off to rest? I don't know. They would have to take on Cleveland or Detroit, but I like them in that matchup regardless of who they have to face in that DS matchup. And depending on who they play in the ALCS, I do like what they're bringing to the table. So I got Dodgers and Mariners in my World Series matchup.
All right, Nick. With all that being said, unless you have anything else to add, take us home.
Please, Yankees, just please, not the Red Sox, just not the Red Sox. I don't think I can handle losing to the Red Sox in the playoffs again. I haven't handled the last three times, so that's all I'm gonna. That's where I'm gonna leave it off, Johnson. That's going to do it for this week's edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. The MLB season has ended. We are now into the playoffs, where we have some big wild card matchups that are kicking off tomorrow. The Reds and the Dodgers and the Padres and the Cubs will meet in the National League wild card. In the American League wild card, Tigers, Guardians, Red Sox, Yankees. Once those series conclude, we'll be back here on the show to recap the wild card series and then preview the respective American League Divisional Series as well as the National League Divisional Series. This has been Nicholas Bavona, joined alongside, as always, by my co-host Andrew Johnson for the All Gas No Break Sports Show. Have a great rest of your week.